от сигарет кружится, как тези споры, тонкий английский лед, под ним кипящее море. Рюмка на полпальца, и где-то усталая печень, но он опять рвется в зал, как будто последняя встреча. Жесткое вино разума обжигает, но будет спящих каждое слово, как выстрел в зал, и не осталось священных щелей, где бы он тихо промолчал. Где-то в Багдаде жара тонет в сарказме и прозе. Он пишет, как режет ножом, по мифам на белой бумаге. В студиях, в старых барах, в маленьких залах кампусов он ставит под роспись богов и веру сдает под авансом. Жесткое вино разума обжигает, но будет спящих каждое слово, как выстрел в зал, и не осталось священных щелей, где бы он тихо промолчал. Тело слабеет, голос сипит, но шутка выходит точнее. Он поднимает стакан и говорит: поверим, кого соберет скорее. Публика держит дыхание, он не дает ей надежд, только упрямая да к сомнению и пути. И следуй смерть, честное разума обжигает, но будет спящий каждое слово, как выстрел в зал, и не осталось священных щелей, где бы он тихо промолчал.
This land was made for you and me. That includes our poor and hungry. If you want to join the fight, come stand with us on the right side of history. Divided we stand, united we fall. In the belly of the beast, fighting fascists, the tyrants.
Oh my. Well, good evening, everybody. This is Divided We Stand. It's Sunday, the 3rd of May. And we are pushing towards those summer days, like Sly said. This is Divided We Stand. You can find us on Facebook and on YouTube. We ask that you subscribe to our channel on YouTube if you have a YouTube account. We would appreciate that. Dave and I work very hard at this, at least sometimes. And we would only appreciate that you become a subscriber. Also, if you're on Facebook, you can find us on Facebook at the Divided We Stand group page. It is a private page. If you're watching this, you can go on over to Divided We Stand on Facebook and become a member. It's very, very simple. Just request, and as long as you're not a Trumper trying to cause trouble, you're in. And that's that. So tonight's show is entitled Dumbfounded because it seems like Trump is dumbfounded with everything he's had to do this week or didn't do. And nothing seems to change, and who better to speak with on this kind of information than David Price. So Dave, welcome. Hope everything's going well down there in Arlington, Virginia. What's new with you?
Well, that's a relative term. Personally, yes. Professionally, yes. I'm going to use this as a little bit of a shameless self-promotion tonight for a project that I'm kind of excited about that relates to what we do. But of course, in terms of the government, no. It is a race, Brian. It's a race between can we get rid of Trump versus how much damage can he do? Every day, in every way, we're seeing that mount up. Now, some will be easy, okay? Let's say, for example, he does get his Arc de Triomphe, which would dwarf the Lincoln Memorial. Well, they give you a sledgehammer, I'll go down there and take that down. That's fine. That's not a problem. We can scratch his name off of everything. But what is a problem is the things internally that he's done for government, not the least of which is the horrendous appointments that he made to the Supreme Court, which this past week, I think, if America survives, and if there is history that will be written, it will go down as right up there with pro-slavery decisions the court made. There's no question about that. It disenfranchises basically black Americans. I mean, it's a racist court. It's a racist statement. It's a racist president.
And they're going against precedent, basically. I mean, the civil rights.
Pardon me?
They're going against precedent.
Well, of course. And what I always smile at, the court says, we don't do that. We don't go against precedent. Yes, you do. You're a radical, right-wing bunch of, at least two of you, in my estimation, are probably sexual deviants in terms of charges that have been lodged against, which, of course, we don't believe women in this day and age. We never have. Someday we will, I hope. But the point becomes now is what it forces us to do, Brian. Mm-hmm. Gerrymandering is bad. It's just bad. All right. You should lay out. It should be. Shouldn't even be political. Lay out some way across the country. This is where this is where your voting district is. I don't know if any of you have. I'd highly recommend it. Look at some of the gerrymandered districts. And what is it? First of all, what is a gerrymander? It basically lines up a district in such a way that one party or the other controls. You see things that go in circles and around here and out there and over here, and it's horrible. Well, basically what the Supreme Court said, it's fine. Go ahead and do it. That's really what it comes down to. And within a matter of moments from that ruling, Louisiana jumped and said, we're going. And that's really where the case came from. So there's now a possibility that they will not, if they do one of the proposals they have, there will not be now remember, this is Louisiana. A lot of black folk in Louisiana. But there's a gerrymandering plan that not one district will be black in Louisiana.
Cut it up
now,
in weird.
Yeah, just configurations and
That's
stuff.
it. Yeah.
Now, okay, so That's bad. But it's bad if the Democrats do it. Okay, too. Gerrymandering is just a bad thing. But again, Trump and his ilk force you to do things that aren't good just to battle the bad that he does.
And of course,
So,
they've
of course-
been behind, a lot of the Republicans have been behind that anyway, knowing they're going to lose their power for years now with Mitch
Oh no, this
McConnell.
is nothing. This is not this. We don't lay this, solely at Trump's feet. This is a plan that actually, Brian, from some limited research that I've done, just looking into it, actually, this goes all the way back to the Civil War. It really does. But if you want to look at the modern part of it, this is really a reaction to FDR's New Deal. That's really, what this comes from. So you could take it. Well, you could, if you want to, you could take it all the way back to the foundation of the country. We were formed under the auspices of bringing the 13 colonies together, some of which had slaves and some of which didn't. And we made a lot of compromises, which at the time, you could argue if they weren't made, the country would not have been a country. As I look at it now, I don't know whether that's such a bad thing. Yeah. I'll tell you this, I know we say no kings, and I say no kings in America, but listening to the King of England destroy Donald Trump in Congress, and Donald Trump, if anybody didn't realize how stupid he is, he didn't even know. It went right over his head. He was just so enamored with, being there around a king that he, what he wants to do. He didn't even get that he was being attacked.
Right.
And
He's just concerned
he
about
was.
the theatrics of a regal meeting,
Correct. And so just to kind of close out my thoughts on this, I can't conceive of much of a worse decision than the Supreme Court arrived, where it basically says, despite the Civil Rights Act of 1965, right? Despite, the fact that we're all supposed to be Americans, that you can say with certainty that Donald Trump, that the Republican Party, that Trump's Supreme Court are racist. No question. None.
Well, they'll do
I
the
don't care
bidding of the Republican Party. I mean, it was one or the other, or both.
They're racist. You don't have to be, okay.
I'd
look at it
agree
this
with
way.
you. I'm just saying.
No, I know
and,
you do. But I like the semantics thing that people play. Oh, I'm not a racist. If you vote like a racist and you talk like a racist and you act like a racist, you are a racist.
And you can't. Even the person can't define the fact that whether they're racist or not. I mean.
Yeah,
You don't know what it's like
basic.
to be African American or a minority. So
No, well, I don't think
that
I would
tells
say
you
this:
you're not a racist.
any white person in America that doesn't think there is a double standard for white and non-white Americans. Once in a while, it looks like money can, balance that. No, it doesn't. Once in a while, it looks like education can. No, it doesn't. There are basically, America is a heavily racist country. Now, up until Trump, maybe, what Trump did is just turn on the floodgates. That's all he did. He just said, let it run. Again, it's something, as we said, Republicans have wanted for a long time, and now they have it. And now your state, Brian, I see New Jersey is considering firing you because you put the intro on again. They're considering.
No,
it.
I was just switching default scenes, and all of a sudden it popped and went to the other
No,
scene.
I don't. Brian, no, I don't want to hear that. You did that deliberately because I think secretly you like gerrymandering. So your thoughts, Brian, on gerrymandering?
Well, it's infuriating, and you can see how it couldn't have been done without all of these governors. And this thing was this plan. When we took over the presidency, they were going to attack it from a different angle. They said, okay, we're going to have this planned takeover of all of these state governments, and then therefore that allows us to gerrymander, and then we'll get the votes we need. So basically, they figured out a way to make it cheap because there was no way out the other way, because they saw the way the country was moving in terms of colors, minorities, and things like that. So it was a real cheat, and they've done it before, but now it was just being done nationwide, and now there's a race to wherever the finish line. Obviously California, and I think New York tried, at least in certain
New York's
areas.
still got an effort going.
Yeah.
Well, basically,
it goes back and forth, but what's going to happen when push comes to shove, and maybe as it comes down to the final wire, New York is the deciding case, and then what will the Supreme Court do? That's the way I'm thinking right now. They'll just throw it in the trash can.
I would say, Brian, normally I'd agree with you, but it'll be a little bit tough now because basically if you boil it down to its essence, what the Supreme Court says is it's okay to gerrymander. Mm-hmm. So, would it try? It's okay to gerrymander if you're a Republican, but not if you're a Democrat. That's a pretty hard position, to hold. Would they say, "Oh, so we made a mistake"? If they thought that the Democratic gerrymandering would lead to their, dismissal,
they'll just make anything up. These people, like you said, this is a racist court, so they will do anything. They will say anything to justify. Right. Use semantic fiat, whatever they're going to do, they'll do. I don't trust them. I'm sorry. I don't even know what to say.
No. Why, Brian? You're doing that. Why are you sorry? Why are you sorry? Seriously.
Because I think a lot of people who would watch this show who are not part of Body We Stand would say, okay, well, you're going too far. You're exaggerating the claims about the Supreme Court. We got there legally. That's just what they...
Well, I'm not speaking to you, Brian. I'm speaking to anybody who feels that way. That's, to me, that's okay. Well, I guess can't hate Adolf Hitler. I mean, that's really what we're talking about here.
And then Judy brings up this point about Clarence Thomas. I mean,
absolutely.
thing, Clarence Thomas, and I think that's the worst type of racist or whatever you want to call it. When you hate your own, that to me, something's really wrong with you when you're self-hating.
Yeah, I think we've seen that play out time and time again.
Thomas is just
why
he's even on the court, after Anita Hill.
Well, very simply, he was appointed as an Uncle Tom. I mean, that's what he is.
Well, but the problem is that he's at the forefront. So he's like a triple Uncle Tom. He's just impossible.
Absolutely. And for years he did not speak from the bench, and he was just kind of sitting there, and then he would rule. And it's kind of who's the worst Supreme Court justice? Okay, well, you've got Clarence Thomas in the running. Obviously, you've got Sam Alito in the running. You've got Kavanaugh in the running. Right. You've got Roberts in the running simply because he hasn't used his power. He could sway maybe something. He hasn't done that. So he's in their camp. Gorsuch, it's well known in D.C. circles that he is avenging his mother, who he feels she was an appointee at one point, and the Democrats got rid of her or something, and he's still doing that. Amy Coney Barrett, people thought she was a one-trick pony. If she got her way and got abortion done, that would be it. But we're saying, her colors are that way. And what happens is they can hide behind, and it is hiding behind. They say they're conservative. No, they're not. They're not.
No.
They're not. They're not synonymous. You can be a conservative and not be a racist, right? But you can't. You can't do racist things and then claim that you're not, and that's what they're doing. So, that when you were saying before, I'm speaking again, using you as all of America. When we say these things it's always irked me. This has been one of my pet peeves all along. You should respect the office. Fuck no. No, 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 no. You either respect or disrespect the person who holds the office. And that applies from the president right on down to the mayor of the smallest borough in America. No. To me, I don't accept it. I don't believe it. I think it's counterproductive in terms of that. I think we get caught up in symbols rather than real people. The White House. Ooh. Well, first of all, I'll tell you who doesn't respect the White House. It's Donald Trump. I mean, he doesn't respect anything. He just doesn't. So think about it. Why should we show even a modicum of respect to Donald Trump, a man who shows no respect to anyone?
And the same can be said for Rudy Giuliani, who tonight sits in critical condition.
Yeah.
We talked about that before we came on.
Yeah, I didn't know that until then. Well, I think, again, Rudy Giuliani was never all that. Okay. He did come a little bit to the forefront in times of New York's troubles.
But don't all mayors and governors look good when there's a disaster? All they have to do is show up with a bullhorn and put a cap on and say, I'm going to do something about this.
That's absolutely true, Brian, except I wonder, and I haven't thought of this, would it apply to Donald Trump? I mean, I'm being serious. Could he come out and do what
help
George
him win
Bush,
an election with the attempt on his ear, came across as a conquering hero.
If something like 9/11 happened, right? George Bush did some good things, okay? Unfortunately, they weren't carried through on. But I mean, he did rally the country around that. Could Donald Trump do that? I don't think he could. I don't think I mean,
I don't think it would matter though, because I think that it's the Russian style. It doesn't matter that they don't have the majority; they just need control. He wants control of the country.
No. And then our job is to figure out how do we take that control away from him. Now, some things you can anticipate. There was a big deal made this week, and I'm not so sure that I agree with it. I mean, I think it's still kind of horrendous. His poll numbers are down, okay? But Brian, there's still 34%, according to polls, 34% of the American people think Donald Trump is doing okay to outstanding. That's 1 in 3. Now, what I mean,
that's a psychological problem. That has to be speculated upon through psychiatry or neurology. I mean, I don't know how we sit here dumbfounded because we don't know why anybody would vote for this son of a bitch.
Well,
but why were people into slavery? It's just what are you thinking?
You know what? Certainly, slavery is horrific and horrendous. Okay, it's a stain on America.
Right, it goes without saying. It's so absurd.
There is a difference in time. At the time of slavery, it was accepted in a number of places around the world, right? So you could say that they were colored or some way their mind processes were not really there. But still, if you were a human being, you should have realized it was wrong, and they didn't.
You're trying to own somebody's body, the sovereign body.
Yes.
I mean, I still say it's so simple. You have no right to take somebody's body. And then you're trying to take their mind too. You can offer some,
and what
invisible real estate.
Whatever I found, whatever I always thought, there was quite a sexual aspect to that too, on both sides. Fear of males raping and defiling, the flowerhood of white women. But on the other side, you had these white slave owners.
Right, it was okay for them. Yeah.
Well, again,
which shows you the type of sick mentality there is. There was something really psychologically wrong with people then as they are today. There was no such thing as mental health care back then. Lincoln had to deal with depression, this whole presidency.
Right. Well, what I think it gets to, Brian, is um, really it comes down to power. Okay, that's really the motivator of that. So when people say money,
One over the
power
other. No,
more
I
than
get that. I think, yeah, I think you're
yeah.
at some basic level. It's about that.
Religion, it's power. Feudal times, it was power. Kingship is power. And what happens is, in okay, I'll do it this way. There was a judge who in Bridgeton who we were friendly. In fact, he was my sponsor, my AA sponsor. And we were talking one time, and he said, I'd really like to run for school board. He said, because the schools are a mess, and they were. They're a mess now. But they've all, schools, public schools have been in trouble for a long, long time. But he said, I'm not going to get beat. And he named this person particularly, who actually at a number of school board meetings would say, well, how does that affect football? I mean, that's all he was there for, So my point is that a lot of times the wrong people with the wrong temperament or makeup run for political office. It starts with ego. You pretty much have to have an ego to run, unless you're the type of person that says, I really want to change this thing. And so I'm going to, get out of my comfort zone and run and become a public person. And what's happened is, and again, we can't lay all the blame on Trump, but we can lay, certainly on his time as president. We've just opened the floodgates today alone. And there were 5 pictures that were listed, memes of Trump. None of them were real. And everybody was pushing them as real. So, the thing is, maybe the worst thing Trump has done is he has killed truth. I mean, you really, we were talking about that down here the other day. We said, if we're going to argue about whether that's a nice wall or not, right? Getting back to, his original idea of the Mexican wall. But we first have to acknowledge it's a wall. And we're at a point in America where we don't even, they say it's a wall. I don't see a wall, or I see a wall and they don't see a wall. With the 34%, if the number is accurate, and polls can be questioned now, they're not like they used to be. But we have a third of the country that I consider to be enemies of the state. Now, they consider me to be an enemy of state too, and I'm fine with that. So I guess, what we need to look at, I've said it before, so I'll bear it again, is we have to convince that other third in numbers large enough to make changes. And that presupposes that we'll have a midterm election. And Trump's credibility, he never had any, but certainly it's gone. So let's look at that too. That's still going around. Do you think, or what do you think? I shouldn't say do you think. What do you think? Okay, let me do it this way. What did you make of the the most recent assassination attempt?
I don't know any more than the next person, and I'll say the same thing I said last week. I am in the viewpoint that I don't trust anything coming out of the government right now, and nor should anybody trust it. However, I could see the possibility that somebody would want to take him out because there are plenty of people out there that are willing to do that. I don't know that it even really matters at this point, Dave, because you will just never know. It's like Epstein. Unless somehow we can get to those files and you had somebody other than Merrick Garland, you might be able to get the information. I just, Dave, I'm at the point where I'm so cynical that I can't.
No,
and people wonder why I have such vitriol. When I speak, I get upset and all. It's from the years and the buildup of the lies, and they're so bad, the lies, and it's not only lies, Dave. It's just pure propaganda, and I think that harkens back to Goebbels and that kind of thing. Showing Poles raping German women and all that kind of stuff. I don't know what to say. I don't even know that it
No, no.
matters whether it was a legitimate attempt or
Oh,
not.
first of all, or not, but first of all, this is not unique, or not as unique as it appears. Um, Sunday, I guess it was, maybe. We went with friends to the Jewish Center here in DC, and they have a phenomenal exhibit. It's one of the best I've seen that isn't put on, by the Smithsonian or someone with money. And it's on the Black List, the Red Scare, McCarthyism, and that was a pretty dark time too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it was hard to get
The,
out of that thing for a while.
but what was interesting about that is when the proverbial push came to shove, Eisenhower rose to the moment. You had journalists like Edward Murrow and some others who rose to the moment. But you also had a feeling that government could be good. I don't know if that feeling exists now in America. I really don't. On all sides. I mean, obviously we don't think it's good.
Well, we've even
Obviously,
lost we've even lost any type of faith in our own party, the Democratic Party, because
right.
you and I both have felt that it's just so diverse that it can't seem to get anything done.
Well, see, and that's my standard spiel on that is its strength is its weakness. It's a very all-encompassing type party. You can find all types of people there, but it's hard to get those people. If your issue is climate, that's your issue.
Right.
If your issue is women's rights, that's your issue. And sometimes it's hard to motivate. Whereas, quite honestly, the Republicans have the advantage in that. All they care about is benefiting white men. That's it. And you say, well, what about the women? They don't care. They want them subservient and be a trad wife and all that type of stuff. Or, now again,
And they don't want to
this
see
is
the
not,
past slip away, and that's another. It's almost, Dave.
well,
It's almost like the guy who has to think back in high school. What could have been. If I had just thrown the perfect pass, or we've discussed this kind of thing before. We've known people who
oh,
bring
yeah.
up the high school crap, not ad infinitum. You just have to give it up, but they don't
Well,
want to give it up, and that's a form of it at a national level.
and I think, again, fear is a powerful motivator, but it's not a good motivator. And I think a lot of Trump's people do a double thing. They want to pass that really didn't exist, but it might have existed for them, okay, but not for the majority of the country. And then they also want, or they're also terrified of what happens next. And the more I get involved with AI, the more I see the possibility, Brian, that this conversation we're having is meaning us right now. Because I'm not Terminator. It's not 2001: A Space Odyssey, but what it is we know human nature. We know the nature of people in power.
Right.
We know that capitalism is a horrible system. I can't find one better because human beings mess up everything, whether it's religion, whether it's economics,
Maybe
it
just a
doesn't
smaller
matter. But
population would help, but that's not for me to
but that you're not going to.
enforce.
But the thing that becomes with AI is some voices whom I think are realistic are saying that you could see as much, Brian, as a 50% of the jobs now, human jobs, will not be human jobs.
But
What
on
do you
its
do with
face
50%
value,
of
it's
the
not that's not a bad thing if we don't have to work in the future. Like no more horses in World War One.
Okay, stop.
That in itself
I,
is good.
but
But like you say,
how are you going to live, Brian? How are you going to live?
well, like I said, I could envision a day, a somewhat of a utopia, where machines do all the work, and then you don't have to do anything but hang out all day, like the
But you have to.
Jetsons or something.
Yes, but you have to have an economic system that allows that. Capitalism is not it. Now,
Well, I
there's a
have no
bill.
problem with that. I mean, I'm not big into systems. You know, I mean, I think there should be a
Well,
system, but something that's not so
well, I mean,
unforgiving as capitalism.
well, some people are pushing a guaranteed income, and one person who was doing that said, "Well, everybody should get $12,000." That buys you what, four bananas in a grocery store? I mean, $12,000 is
Well, the real problem, Dave, we're
absurd.
going in a lot of different directions with this, but and it's worth it though. I still think population is the problem, but the question is who decides, who may have a certain number of children. But it's a serious, serious question. And this is what
No,
we run into with just there's too many people on the planet because we consume so much, especially a small group of people are consuming, they're fighting above their weight class, so to speak, but in the wrong way. Actually, they're fighting below their weight class, I guess you could say. But it's awful. We're headed for. I mean, look, you can see the continuum. I mean, religious people might look at it as revelations. Uh, Optimists might say, well, we'll get through this. No, 99.9% of all living organisms have died. Evolution, it's there's no doubt in my mind this is going to happen. It's going to happen because humans they can't get along. There's the territorial imperative, and we see it happening, even within parties. I'm sorry, I'm Dave. I've got a really negative viewpoint tonight.
well, I think there are people who believe that individuals can be good, but collectively it brings out the worst in them. And I think there may be some truth to that. Um, now again, we're not going to get real heavy into this because it's not even what the debate is. Are people born evil? Do they become evil, or are they made evil? And I think it may be a combination. But what we do know is we don't maybe know how they got there, but we do know what they're doing.
We
It's
do
evil.
know
I
that a
have no
human
idea.
being is a want machine, though. There is built in our
True.
DNA. It wants to propagate, and there's
But
some problems with
it
it.
well, but then you have to understand, which people don't, or a lot of people don't, is that's fine if it's just you. But we are also, we should, not just should, we have to conceive something of the common good. We have to conceive something outside of ourselves. If not, we're all Donald Trumps. I mean, he doesn't conceive of
Well,
anything
intelligent
outside of
people
himself.
certainly capable of making those type of decisions. Like, let's do something good for society. I mean,
And it's also
it's
good.
pretty
What I
simple.
always find, what I find is it's also good for them. Um, I'll use an example. The city, Bridgeton, where you lived, I lived for 59 years. Um, it's for anybody who's not familiar. It's a typical. It's a city of 20,000 surrounded by suburbs and farmland. So there's really two different clientele, if you will, two different types of people. And there was always this feeling, Richard, it doesn't bother. And I would just tell people, do you really think if you let Bridgeton go and crime becomes rampant, and to me, crime is a socioeconomic condition more than anything else, and that do you think they're going to stop at the railroad tracks and say, "Oh, I can't go into Upper Deerfield," or "Oh, I can't go in over here"? So I think we miss the boat when we don't look collectively. We're actually acting against our own best interests. That's one. Secondly, human beings, I think, have a real problem, or many, not all, have a real problem at looking to the future. I think they just say, well, I don't know. A couple of things. I don't know what the future brings. They don't understand that every single act that a human being does affects
Right.
the future.
Affects everything.
Single, every
The moment you
single
breathe,
act
you affect
is
the
it
planet.
exactly. Now, uh, I mean, I suppose you could go absolutely insane worrying about certain things like that. But I think overall, you have to keep that in mind that what you're doing is based on the past, but you're in the present, but your present becomes the future, which then becomes the present, which then becomes the past. It's
But we
all,
live our lives
yeah,
in the present. Though. That we can say, no matter what.
that we can say.
We will never live
But
outside those thin strands of the past and the future. We
but the
always live in the
problem
present.
but the problem is the fact that things
But there is a
things might be
future.
okay. Yeah, but
There'll be another
well,
now coming up, and you've got to prepare for it.
that's right. And I mean, I sometimes when I look at people who aren't concerned about climate, who aren't concerned about the possibility of nuclear annihilation, who aren't concerned about the possibilities of rogue AI, who aren't concerned about capitalism running wild, don't they have children? I mean,
But
don't
some
they have
can't-
grandchildren?
First of all, the poor are no picnic either because they're so busy trying to survive that those kind of things aren't. It's just not something that
Exactly.
they're thinking about. And then the rich are taking advantage of it, like Putin's taking advantage of climate change. So it makes it extremely difficult. I mean, look, science has always had to play second fiddle to everybody. What happened to Galileo, Copernicus. It goes on and on and on. The Dark Ages. We've already said on the show, and you've agreed yourself, Dave, that had those Dark Ages not occurred, perhaps we would have had computers by the time of Washington, or maybe
Yeah,
by Lincoln.
of course. I think, but again, looking at the present, I think I'm going to take some of your words and put them this way and say, yes, what we do affects the future. But right now, we really can't change the past. We don't know really what's going to be in the future. So the present becomes all we can really deal with right now. You can have thoughts of the future. You can see how slavery impacted every African American who's ever lived, right? But you can't go back and change history. It's there, and who's trying to do that, of course, is Mr. Trump and company.
Right.
As if that's going to make a difference. It's not. You can say, "Oh, slavery wasn't that bad." Yes, it was. Now, so it's well, I wasn't involved with it. If
Well,
you
hold
were
on.
white,
Yeah, I'll do it. If you could do a good thought experiment, because you could
Right.
ask a person, say, okay, look. So you say you weren't responsible, but just for 1 second, for a minute, try to imagine yourself at the bottom of the ship being tied up, and then you're urinating on yourself, and just the thought of that, for even thinking about that for 30 seconds, bothers them. And so they're saying that, oh, well, no, this is something long ago we shouldn't pay attention to. If you actually just even think about it, what you would have to go through, just the thought of it, you might actually realize just how horrible it is for one person to try to steal the body of another, if not the mind of the other.
well, I think what it
Just
shows.
awful.
What it shows is human beings have an innate sense of self-preservation, among other things. And you've described it as a want machine and a need machine with that.
Right.
But something we don't have that you have to really work on is empathy. I don't think that's natural, necessarily. I think it's something you have to work. And one of the things that when I say worry about, I mean, I don't sleep over it, but if you look at most of the people in business and science, many of them lack empathy. Now, Donald Trump is the extreme, okay? I mean, maybe he's the least empathetic human being who's ever lived.
You can't be if
But-
you're vindictive.
Yeah, and that's so I think a lot of times, Brian, and I only know two careers or two places where I can comment on. One is journalism, and that's so changed that I don't even know if I can comment on that anymore. But education, I still feel I'm in. And I think education's made a mistake. I think and we're seeing that. Finland is cleaning our clock. Finland's one of the best countries in the world for education now. And they're actually working empathy into
How
their
about
lessons.
China? They're serious people, Dave. They're extremely serious people. We are not serious people.
Well, I know that. And China, well, think about it.
Because, I mean,
Think
look,
about it.
Finland's fine, but you have 4 million people.
I
it's good
understand.
at producing hockey players. But the point is, when you talk about as a world power, China is you see the continuum there also. And I don't know
Well,
how you're going to defeat a population of that size that is, again, a very serious population. And we don't even have the culture for that. I'm not saying our culture is wrong. We're just not that serious.
well, no. And this strikes me as I don't think I would. I never thought I would say this. They're ahead of us in climate.
Right.
They're doing more for climate right now than we are with all those people and with the idea. And I mean, they have their problems too, of course. But
They
I
understood
think that
that
idea
even though they were polluting, like was it the Yangtze River or the Yellow River? I don't know which one. But they realized that they can't continue it in this way. So now they're going to figure it out. Trump, the Republicans, dump.
I
They're
know.
cool with the shopping cart in the in the creek.
And what will be, well, and we don't learn. Talk about a bad mix. I don't know if you saw this week, and it's not the worst thing that happened, but it's indicative of where we are. I don't know if you saw that there are reports, pretty verifiable, that Amazon Prime is considering reinstituting The Apprentice show with Donald Jr. playing the role of his father.
So
You got Jeff Bezos. Yeah, you got Jeff Bezos, who, as I said, I mean, I keep coming back to this, but I really do believe if people don't think women can influence men or good people in a relationship with a bad person, it doesn't work. I mean, just look at all the years he was married to Mackenzie. He was not as bad. And Lauren Sanchez, she's a poster child. His current wife is a poster child from Mar-a-Lago. And there you are. So a lot of times we don't, and what's all that mean? There's money to be made. There's money to be made. The Apprentice, if it, what would it cost? I'm sure Donald Jr. would waive his salary, just like Trump. I mean, I don't take any money. Yeah, $4 billion to play golf, but you don't take a salary. Big whoop. And I mean, a part of me says that the Trump family is done. But with America, with that 34% out there, man, I don't know. That's just it. I mean, I don't know. Now, also, it's hard to maintain and sustain something, a protest against the government when it's in the modern age, when people, one of the things that I think I would be open to being corrected on, but I think I was actually doing an interesting kind of piece, comparing my life as a Villanova student to Pope Leo, who, as I said before, I mean, it's kind of fascinating. I graduated in May, in August he shows up. So we were basically going, in the same decade, to the same college. But I think whether you had Pope Leo's faith or my kind of belief that things could change, both were kind of an optimistic feeling. I don't see that today with people, and I'm not saying it's wrong not to have it.
Right.
I mean, what?
Because it becomes Pollyanna at some point, and that's a problem.
Or it's just Now, again, part of I'm sure that Pope Leo, when he was a student, I don't imagine he took part in too many demonstrations. I don't know that. I mean, but when we did those, it was mass, so we were there. You found people like yourself, and now you find people like yourself, but they're online. Because back then it was everybody headed to D.C. Now I know that is impractical these days, and you got to remember too, with students, we didn't have much to lose. What the hell? We didn't have to support families. We didn't have to go to work. Most of us didn't care a bit about our classes, so we thought that was more important. But now, is this? And again, the older I get, the more I wonder about the use of technology. It's there. You're not going to stop it. But for example, I'll give you an answer. It's not really technology, but I'm amazed, Brian. Maybe you're not. Like I said, I spent 34 years in education. I am amazed. That's the proper word. How much damage COVID did that I didn't expect. If the teachers are telling the truth nationwide, and I think they are. Well, also they're worrying about connectivity, cell phones, computers. Now you're going to throw AI in the mix, and over all of this, you have a president who is clinically insane or has dementia, and
I
so
would go
you're really
with
not
the
going to.
former.
Yeah.
I don't think that he has dementia. I think the man
Yeah. Well, I mean,
has got
we know.
has
I mean,
a psychosis. He's psychotic.
I certainly would not dispute that. And maybe I could be president. I just had my wellness annual wellness check, and they gave me the 3 words. Have you had one of those? Have you had a dementia check yet, Brian?
I took when my mother didn't pass hers. I looked at mine. And there's a quick one. It's 80% correct usually in terms of being able to determine it, and that's fine with it.
No, I'm not saying for that even, but the simple one is they give you 3 words.
Right,
and
shirt,
then,
ball, tree, and then you have to remember 20 minutes later. Or you have
and
to
then they ask
draw
you other
a
questions.
clock, right?
And you draw the clock with the time.
And you have to give your address. It's a real basic test, but it's 80% effective in determining.
Yeah, no, I mean, and I didn't feel. I mean, Trump, he doesn't even know what he took. He doesn't even know what it is.
Right.
And so I guess my 2 theories before I move into some of this shameless self-promotion tonight is my concern about technology and my concern about the 34% that still support Trump. You got them on both sides, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and we can be undone. I mean, you were saying before, like the idea of doing that thought experiment and putting yourself in that ship and what's going on. I mean, every so often I have to just stop myself and say, a crazy man is running the country.
Right.
Right. I certainly Nixon had psychological problems. There are other presidents who've had them. You mentioned Lincoln's depression.
Right.
Woodrow Wilson, had a stroke and his wife ran the country for almost 18 months. But not like this, because everything at once, you have the technology, and kind of tying into that, you have the ability. I mean, who knows what's true? Used to be, show me the picture and you kind of believe it, right?
Right.
I mean,
Now you don't know.
Now you have no idea. Anyway, for some shameless self-promotion, tomorrow I'm looking forward to debuting my new project. So just a little bit of background on it. It's an extension of one I've actually had for 10 years. And it was called, excuse me, Talking About My Generation, the Baby Boom Experience. And during those 10 years, I've been able to produce a book on music from rock and roll from its beginnings to Jimi Hendrix at Woodstock. I was able to design and deliver baby boomer First Amendment tours for the museum and speak there. I was able to do a similar thing with the Smithsonian. COVID came and that kind of moved some things around. Then I had, the triple bypass. But now we're coming back. It's all revamped and reviewed. And for people who watch the show and also on our page, one section of it, or one division, I think is pretty interesting and should be, hopefully, a merit. So really, in that division, it's called The Struggle for America's Soul. And there's four separate features in that generate articles. So the first we're calling Cracks in the Foundation. And what I'm going to do there is look at the things, especially from the 60s, since we're talking the baby boomers, that still haven't been resolved. That doesn't have anything. I mean, it certainly doesn't help that Trump's there. But I mean, these are the things we've never resolved. We never really resolved, a lot of things that are there. Then I've got one that's kind of, it's fun, and it's amazing. I'm just calling it the Trump type, and it's trying to understand Trump through the lens of pop culture, and it's amazing. Whether it's Macbeth or Star Wars or Wizard of Oz, or you see this. I mean, the Trump archetype has been with us forever, just not the way not with the social media we have now and others. Another one related to that is the American Nightmare, how Donald Trump captures the dark side of the American dream. And, the question there, one of the questions that we're trying, was the American dream ever really real? And if so, is it doable or reproducible today? And what is the American dream? And who was denied the American dream? And just try to figure out, it's the American dream. Well, is that just words or is there? And then the one that I probably like the most is, as anyone who pays attention to the news, Bruce Springsteen and Donald Trump are in a war of words. And I happen to be a huge Springsteen fan. And so I'm going to call it Land of Hope and Dreams, which is the title of his song. It's also the title of the tour he's under. I know we could argue about, is he real or genuine? I think in this point he is, in terms of taking on Trump. I think he does speak, of course, the question is, can a billionaire, and he's a billionaire, can a billionaire speak for the common man? I don't know, but I think he tries to make a good effort at it. So anyway, that'll be coming. And I thought tomorrow, kind of fun, two things. I'm going to break two different articles tomorrow, and I'll post. I won't post the articles, but I'll post links on Divided We Stand. One is May Day. Now that was another thing, Brian. May Day was going to be this national. May 1st is Workers' Day. From communism, it has a very interesting history in America, but I didn't see a lot about the May Day protests. I mean, again, I guess it wasn't as big as No Kings, but that tying in, and then the one that I really like,
shirtwaist fire, then you'll see it.
Oh, that's true. And then the other thing, the other article that's going to debut this week is since it's May the 4th, so it's May the Force be with you. And, we were talking last week, I think last week or the week before, about some theological and religious things. And I said that I'm not a joiner by nature, and I have nothing, I could not conceive of a set of circumstances that would drive me to an organized religious setting. I just can't. However, I do think there's a spiritual element. I think there's maybe the best thing is, I guess if I really describe it, it might be Star Warsian. I think, in that sense. So the first article, when I do pop culture, I'm going to examine Donald Trump through the lens of Star Wars. And the things are, it's amazing as you sit down and play with this stuff. It was all in front of us, right? But we weren't paying attention, or we didn't think it could be, or we tendency, and you and I have talked about this a lot, Brian, we tend to put history and politics and fine art over here and pop culture over here. Pop culture is the dominant force right now in America. I can't speak to other places.
It moves things a lot faster than politics or whatever. It's just...
And I mean, if you look at it, that's kind of where we are. So anyway, I'm going to try to make it as interesting as I can. And I would hope that anybody who's listening tonight or listens later, check out, Divided We Stand. It's really those four really come out of this program, which we've been doing how long now? How long have we been doing this?
6 years.
6 years. Seems like no more than 5.5.
That's incredible.
But let me ask you something. I never asked you this. When you started this, and you did, you have to take full credit for it because it was your idea. I joined, but it was, without you, there would not be this show. Did you expect it to run as long as it has?
That's what we talked about. You and I both talked about this day before. I thought that after Biden won, that would have been pretty much it. That we would have coalesced and say we're never going to let this son of a bitch do this, especially after January 6th. Right. But no idea. And I trace back to all my other YouTube channels, like with Head in the Box, which still has close to 1,000 subscribers, but it's. Paul and I, with the Head in the Box show, we had maybe, I don't know, tops 200 shows, you know, and that seemed like a figure that I was never going to top. I never believed that Divided We Stand was going to have as many shows as Head in the Box. Well, as it turns out, we're almost doubling it now. That's how many shows we've had. That's a lot of shows. That's a lot of shows. And even though we've had 325 shows, there are, because we had some small snippets and whatnot that weren't live shows. We're over 500 videos on this channel. And this was just a sub-channel for me. Well, now it's everything, even though, you know, obviously the Head in the Box have more subscribers. But if you look at Facebook and then you look here and you put those together, you're talking 2,000 subscribers. So there is a following, and it's just nice to know that you have, you know, people of like minds. But no, to answer your question, never. And I know you didn't think it was ever going to go that long. In fact,
Oh God,
that's one thing Dave and I have in common. We kind of float in and out of projects. You know, like Dave announced his project tonight, and you, Dave, 3 months from now you might have a different project. You know.
well, that's
So,
you know, I think again, well, and you said this before, and you know, so I live with this. I'm not, I'm not a planner
right.
in terms of how I do. You know, you've talked about you and I being more improvisational in music, which is true, and which all of that.
We're just waiting for serendipity. That's all it is. You know?
Well, you know,
Having.
it's just though it's, and sometimes you know, projects in your mind sound pretty good, and then you know, when you get
But
out
it is
there,
creativity.
You know,
I mean, they used to say that when you think these. I think
oh
we both
no,
agree.
yeah, and also
We're not planners, but we like to
you
create.
know, well, that's part of it.
Because the planning has
and I
more
think,
of a
as you
rigid
said,
feel to it. You know, like I do this, and then I do
that's
this,
no,
and then I do this.
that I you know, I that's just not me.
In that sense,
I'm
Dave,
not saying it.
if an evaluator would evaluate a lesson by you or by me, we would probably fail each time because we were so improvisational.
Well,
just
I
kind of
will-
like a salesman, like looking at how the customer is reacting to a particular product.
Right. I'm not saying, oh, what a good boy am I, but I will say this, supporting what you just said. A few years ago, there was an assistant superintendent. She did not impress me, and I did not impress her. This is a long time ago. And she came up to observe the class, and she was livid that I wasn't on the lesson that you were supposed to be on. And she said, you were teaching a third grade lesson. I said, yes, I was. And here's why. The kids that I got could not do that
Right.
third grade lesson. And I'm going to meet them where they are. I can, you know, I'm not going to take them back to third grade, but, you know, we were doing parts of speech that you have to master. You know, it's not fun, but if you don't know what a noun is
Right,
and you don't know what a
adverb,
verb,
forget it.
adverb or an adjective, you can't write. You can't write. It has more to do with writing. Now you might say, well, I'm never going to write. Well, you know, you still need, it also helps you understand.
You have to be able to speak.
And that's,
See what I'm saying? You have
and,
to be-
and
that's where
that's-
really, yeah, that's
Now,
where it
of course,
shows
that-
immediately.
that's why I could never be I mean, there's a billion reasons why I could never be a politician. But I'd be just like Trump, except I hope I wouldn't be. It's weird. I mean, I couldn't stay on a teleprompted target. I have a teleprompter sitting in my closet here that I haven't used ever because, you know, I just feel it locks you in. But anyway, again, thank you to everyone who came tonight. I see by our comments, there was a lot of good given, taken back and forth. And I think that's, you know, that's one of the things that Brian and I kind of pride ourselves on being able to do. The show is not about him. It's not about me. It's about people of like minds, which Brian says all the time, getting together. And Brian uses the word commiserate. I think that's an appropriate word. But also just it's something that okay. Would it be better? Would it be better if everybody who tuned in tonight, if we were all in a room talking to each other? And the answer is absolutely yes. But how's that? That's never going to happen. So this is one of those times when technology is good because it allows this to happen.
Whatever you can do to communicate in this universe, because at some point in time, we may not be able to communicate to each other face to face. That life will have changed so much that we may live in a virtual world. Who knows what it will be, but don't assume anything anymore. Don't even assume who you are. I mean, I even to myself, the old expression, you look at yourself in the mirror and say, "Who is this guy?" And we've all kind of done it, where you look at that mirror for a second and you say, "Hold it, there's some disconnect from the mind that's thinking and the vision that I see in the mirror," and it scares you. And part of that is probably the realization that maybe your brain is something different than you as this whole thing. The body is what you would think. It's a lot different, and some people have to communicate. Some people live in an iron lung still. It's just what we're doing is what we have to do. This is just the reality of the situation.
I guess on a micro level, I thought we were moving ahead when we elected Barack Obama for 2 terms. And I was wrong.
But
And on a macro level, I think we should be further along as human beings, and we aren't.
we are.
And I have less time on the planet now than I did 50 years ago, or 74 years ago when I was born. But some of that, I like to work on some of the things, whether it's empathy, some of the things that I see missing, and I don't have the answers, but at least raise the questions.
Right.
And I think that's what you can do. I'm a little skeptical of people who have the answers. I think sometimes you do, but the situations are changing. But to get the right questions, that's important. So if we do nothing else, I hope that we stimulate some thinking and right questions. And just remember, there is one hard truth in the world. If it's a good show, it's a credit to me. If it's a bad show, it's Brian's fault.
And
that's just a gift.
To finally say, just remember, at least Sisyphus had a job, and that's all we can say. And we have a job to do. No matter if Dave and I are not going to see the end of this, I don't think. And I think we both realize that. So anyway, good night, everybody. Good night, Dave. Good luck on your project, and we'll talk during the week. I think I'll have time to talk this week.
All right, man.
All right.
Take care, everybody.
All right, das vidanya, everybody. And how do I end this thing? There we go.